everybody. Let's get one more invitation out. And we will get started. Can't see my chat, so let me close everything. My apologies. There we go. Welcome everyone to our VWEC Metaverse Experts Series. We are so glad to see you and have you join us for today's very interesting presentation and discussion. For those who are new, I've just put our website in the text, and you can find VWEC on many social media channels. And there is a link for those. After our presentation, we will move over to the back side of the deck for a more informal conversation and social time for those who are able to stay. We are so pleased to offer our Expert Series presentations in both text and chat. Text for all that use voice is shared on our YouTube live stream at this link. And you can find this on the sign in front of our stage, right over to my right as well. Speaking of signs, we would like you to know that how to find out about our events. And so our survey plant, right to the next of our lovely guest, has just a quick survey that is a great help to us. So if you would fill it, please fill it out and feel free to send along any comments you might have as well. I would like to thank you all for joining us for this very interesting presentation. And I am happy to introduce our Metaverse expert speaker to you. We first saw Janet and her colleagues at the VWBPE conference. Creative Studios is from the University of Texas at El Paso and is made up of Janet Hill and Adrian E. Mesa. Janet, aka Madeline McMinner, is an instructional technologist who brings nearly 15 years of experience in immersive education with a background rooted in instructional technology and multimedia production. Her passion lies in sculpting virtual worlds and partnering with faculty to create interactive experiences that engage and excite students. Adrian is also an instructional technologist with a Bachelor of Arts in Digital Media Production and over a decade of experience in multimedia production. He specializes in video production and audio projects, creating high-quality content that enhances educational experiences. Adrian collaborates closely with faculty to integrate multimedia into teaching, making learning more interactive and effective. Together, Janet and Adrian combine their skills to deliver innovative educational solutions that inspire learners and transform teaching with technology. Unfortunately, Adrian was unable to join us today, but I'm very honored to introduce you to Janet, and I know we are all in for a treat. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to introduce to you Janet Hill. We are so interested in hearing about Machinima Mastery, creating engaging media in the classroom. Over to you, Janet.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for that very generous introduction. I'm going to start off with a video, and I'd like you to go ahead and click the link and watch the video. And when you come back, please let me know that you're done by just typing done in chat so that we know everybody is with us.
In June 1992, Kimber Reynolds returned to Fresno, California from college to attend a wedding. After the wedding, she had dinner with her friend, Greg Calderon at the Daily Planet restaurant in Fresno's Tower District. They had coffee and returned to Kimber's Isuzu at around 10:41 p.m. As Kimber walked to the driver's side, two young men on a stolen Kawasaki motorcycle emerged from a nearby parking lot. The driver, Joe Davis, was recently paroled from Wasco State Prison after serving time for auto theft. He also had a long history of drug and gun convictions. On the back of the motorcycle was Douglas Walker, who had been in and out of jail 7 times. Both men were crystal meth addicts. Earlier in the evening, Davis and Walker attempted a carjacking on one of Fresno's main thoroughfares. Walker, when later asked about his state of mind that night, would say, "I wasn't really thinking much of anything, you know. When it happens, you know. It just happened suddenly. We were just out doing what we do. I mean, that's all I can tell you." Davis and Walker positioned their motorcycle beside Kimber's car, using its weight to trap her against it. Calderon jumped out of the passenger seat and tried to go around the car, but Walker blocked his path. Davis seized Kimber's purse and brandished a .357 Magnum against her right ear. In response to her resistance, Davis fired the gun. Immediately afterward, Davis and Walker fled through a red light on their motorcycle. Witnesses from the Daily Planet rushed to aid Kimber. Shortly after, Calderon drove to her parents' house. Unable to wake them, he began calling, finally reaching them at 2:30 in the morning. Mike Reynolds, Kimber's father, would later recall hearing his wife and Kimber's mother cry out, "In the head? She's been shot in the head?" Kimber Reynolds passed away a day later.
Okay. So what you have just seen is an example of Machinima. It's a powerful tool that can be used for creating immersive educational experiences or just for telling your own stories. Today we are going to be talking about Machinima and why it might be used in education. And we're going to talk about the creative and technical processes that can get you started creating your own Machinimas. Adrian and I come from the University of Texas at El Paso, which is the campus that you saw on the first slide. And a fun fact about UTEP is that all of our buildings on campus are designed in the Bhutanese style. Another thing that makes us unique, I think, is our Faculty Development Center. We're called Inspire, and what makes us unique is the fact that we're a creative team within the center. We have both Adrian and I, but we also have a graphic designer and a web developer. And we work with faculty to create ways to make learning more engaging using technology. And then we also work with the faculty development team to introduce new technologies to faculty and to research the effectiveness of the learning tools that we're creating. So what exactly is Machinima? As you can see here, the definition is it's the use of real-time computer graphics engines to create cinematic productions. And this can include short films, gameplay documentation. One of the most popular uses for it, especially in Second Life, is music videos. Popular platforms for creating Machinima include Minecraft and Second Life. Interestingly, my niece and nephew are fans of a role-play game. They're 6 and 7 years old, and they love a show called AFMAO that's created in Minecraft. And I've found myself sitting and watching these videos as well. I get sucked in. Anyway, Machinima isn't limited to these platforms. There's a few on my screen that are also used to create Machinima. I was surprised to find out that Animal Crossing is really one of the more popular platforms to create Machinima right now. Some other Platforms include The Sims 4, Grand Theft Auto, and sometimes I'll use, or I've been exploring using DAZ 3D software to create Machinima. The idea is basically that you can use the already built-in game features to create your own narrative. It makes, animating and much easier than if you were to try to hand animate something. So at UTEP, we've been exploring virtual worlds since 2009, starting with the Transforming Undergraduate Education Program, which was a grant from the UT system that allowed all higher ed schools in Texas to explore virtual environments. So we created environments for various educational purposes, including health research training, natural science data collection, construction safety training, and even speech pathology training. One particularly exciting project, probably my favorite project, involved taking graduate writing students out of their comfort zone to design their own virtual living museum. And we've also had the privilege of partnering with the Smithsonian Latino Virtual Museum. We helped preserve their Day of the Dead placenta and co-hosted a multimodal cross-platform Day of the Dead festival in Second Life for several years, and focusing on transmedia storytelling. And that involved a lot of machinima. It's one of the places I think where we got our feet wet and really learned a lot about the process. All of these projects have shown us the immense potential of virtual worlds and machinima in education. And I think it's just safe to say that we've used machinima in one capacity or another for each one of these projects. Here's an example of how we used a combination of machinima and real-world video to explain virtual worlds to other educators. It's a little clip, and it's a very early example of our work, but I think it shows you how far we've come. Let's see. So same thing, I'm going to paste this into chat, and if you will just head on over to YouTube and then let me know when you're finished.
What if you could travel back in time to UTEP's original campus and experience what it would be like to be a student in 1914? Or what if you could directly interact and make decisions in situations that you would encounter in your professional life long before you graduate from college? Some might be thinking of Star Trek's holodeck, and really, you wouldn't be too far off. Today on Inside AT, immersive teaching and learning environments.
So what that showed is an example of how machinima can be useful in education. Second Life can be hard to explain to others. If you can put it into a form of technology that people are comfortable with, like a video, it becomes easier to understand and people can begin to see the potential. It can also be a way of preserving digital art. So, very carefully thought out and crafted pieces can show off a beautiful build and document it and help us retain some of that artwork. So let's take a look at this lovely example of the exploration of one of Sika Ghost's builds. And this one is by a machinima artist named Songularity. Singularity did an amazing, or Songularity, I'm sorry, did an amazing job of combining the music with the visuals to kind of create something that really captured her build, I think. So it's very simple, and it's melding visuals with music to help portray the mood that one would feel while walking through her build. That build is no longer in Second Life, but we at least have the Machinima. Machinima can also be used to teach virtual world navigation. And that can be very helpful when introducing students or faculty to a virtual world. You can learn so much from a video by being able to watch where to find the build tool in Second Life interface and prim and rotate it. And I think it might be the most effective way of learning that skill in Second Life, aside from practicing it, of course. How many of you have used the videos that you found on the internet to learn a skill in Second Life? Yeah. Video is a very, very powerful learning tool. So Machinima can also be used to explain concepts visually. Yes, for sure, Max. So Machinima can be used to explain concepts visually. So a good example of that is the crime scene recreation that we showed you at the beginning of the presentation. The instructor who came to us with this particular project wanted his students to be able to visualize the crime scene so that they could understand how to identify the crimes that were being committed. He was originally just reading that script to him, but the addition of the visuals really enhanced it for his students and made it come to life and helped them to visualize the concepts that he was trying to convey. We've also used Machinima to document student activity for training and reflection. So we recorded remote students role-playing, speech therapy, like a speech therapy interaction where they're talking to a parent about a child who they believed has autism. We recorded it and then shared it with the instructor, and the instructor was able to assess the students' abilities and then share that with the students so that they could then reflect on their performance as well. And finally, Machinima can be used to promote events and, I think probably most excitingly, tell stories. So we'll see examples of that a bit later. Machinima isn't just about creating cool videos. It's also a very powerful pedagogical tool. So here's some of the reasons why. It fosters active engagement and discovery-based learning. It enhances critical thinking and knowledge retention. And it allows realistic simulations where students can practice observational and analytical skills. And the creation process itself can be an educational experience. Teach the students the process of telling a story through having them create their own machinimas. It also caters to different learning styles, especially visual learners, and it is, as I said before, it's more cost effective and flexible than traditional animation or live action filming. So somebody who doesn't know how to animate can go into to Minecraft and have their characters do a dance or something like that. It's much easier. So by using Machinima, we're aligning with modern educational philosophies that emphasize active learning and preparing students for a technology-rich future. So now, let's talk a little bit about how to create Machinima. And it all starts with the creative process. You want to start by getting your ideas and objectives down. Think about other videos that you've already seen that maybe you would like to emulate. And it doesn't necessarily have to be on that particular topic that you're discussing. Just find inspiration. do a lot of research. And then you're going to come back and start documenting your research and putting down your creative ideas. And you're going to do that with one of two things, a storyboard or a script. Sometimes we do our script first and others the storyboard. And either way, you need both of those elements. For us, so with the crime scene recreation that we did, we started with the narrative because that's what was brought to us. And then we started thinking about our visuals and worked in the storyboard. But another example would be the storyboard that you see to your left. That one, we started out with the storyboard and developed the script afterwards. So, those things can go hand in hand just depending on what you're doing. But for the storyboard, you want to think about your objectives. If it's for an educational use, what are your learning objectives for the project? What do you want your students or your audience to notice? And how can you help them notice these things through visuals, through words, through sound? Think about what it is that you want them to notice and what you want them to feel and to see and to say. And you really want to start thinking about the details of the visuals that you're aiming for, and you're going to draw them out, and they don't have to be, as amazing as the drawings on the right. They can just be stick figures. You just want to be able to get the flow down and to really understand what you're trying to create. And remember that the creative process is iterative, and it's better if it's a collaborative one. That's not always the case. You don't always have somebody that you can work with, but just having a sounding board, sharing it with others so that they could give you feedback. Are you conveying your message properly? So, you can go back to the drawing board if you need to. And the storyboard can help you understand if you are sharing your message the way that you need to. So now that you have all of that down, and you've written a script, then you need to start thinking about what elements you need to piece this together. So if you have characters in your piece, what do they look like? How do they think? How would they dress? What's their body type? How do they move? Are they going to be really sluggish and walk, because they're sad or something like that? Or are they going to be, very, very active and move in a way that kind of conveys their character? You also want to think about, again, with animation, you want to think about your how you're going to convey emotion, and animation is a really important part of that. And then you want to think about your set, and where are you going to build this set? Are you going to build it? I would recommend, if you're going to build it in a skybox, because that helps reduce lag, and you really don't want lag while you're filming Machinima. You also want to think about your props. What props are you going to need, and start building all of those and bringing them together. We use something called a shot list and a prop list. So the shot list is a list of all the shots that you need, and you base that off of your storyboard, and then from there you're going to write down your set list and your prop list. So you have to get everything very organized. It's very helpful to do that. And again, you want to think about emotion. How are you going to convey emotion? A lot of times you might not want to do that through facial expressions, especially in Second Life, because they tend to be a little bit over the top. You might want to think about, like, the colors within the scene that you're creating, You might want to do that with the movements that you're creating, with the music that you choose, and those sorts of things. And you also want to consider your resources. If you don't have a lot of people who can puppet for you, who can operate avatars for you, you probably don't want to have a lot of characters or a crowd scene or something like that. You probably want to, you might, think about, okay, if I do want a crowd scene, how can I make that happen? Maybe you want to use animesh characters and things like that in your scene to help convey that. Also, if you can't, if you don't have, if you're the actor and the person filming, you're probably not going to be able to do a lot of fancy camera work for anything that it involves a character being in the scene. You're just not going to be able to do both at once. So kind of think about those things as well as you're building. I'm going to give you an example of one of the earliest machinimas that I created, and at the time I was the only one doing this, so I had to use a lot of static shots, and I did use some of Second Life's animations that were available at the time for facial expressions, and you're going to see they look really silly. I tried to kind of go with it, and with this one, you might need to turn the volume up. When we recorded the sound, we were still learning a lot of things, and the sound is not the best. So, but here we go. Please let me know when you're done.
Hello? Hello? Can anybody hear me? My name is Pete, and I need your help to save your future from my past.
Oh man, I hope I'm not late.
It all started at the UTEP bicentennial celebration. It was UTEP's 200th anniversary. The talk of the town was a new time machine that would be unveiled at the end. But then, Evil Pete was there to crash the party.
You can kiss your precious Sun City goodbye. When I'm done here, El Paso will be as pathetic as a plastic bag in the wind.
Hey you. Where are we?
What do you mean? We're in El Paso.
Okay, so that one was to introduce a concept to a class that my boss gamified. Yeah, so it was for a University 1301 class, and so they had to kind of learn about UTEP's culture, and that's how we started it. They had to piece it back together because our arts rival NMSU destroyed our future. So that was the idea behind that one. But you can see, like, this is the storyboard. I have the storyboard on the screen for that particular one. And you can see how some things changed and some things stayed the same. You know, the storyboard allowed me to kind of think about what is the time machine going to look like. You know, I was thinking about how the character was going to be dressed, and I kind of changed that as we went along. You know, just different things like that. And that's the other thing I guess I need to say is that even while you are using your storyboards and your script, as you're doing production, don't be afraid to change things. You're going to find that some things aren't going to work the way that you expect them to. Or some things are going to, you come up with ideas that are much better. When you get the actors involved, when you get other people involved, they're going to have ideas too. And you just need to be open to that. So, you know, the storyboard isn't, you know, something you have to stick to, but it is something that can help guide you. So enough about that. Okay, so the other thing that you should probably think about is getting your props and your lighting and actors together. And I'll talk a bit more about props and actors later, but I wanted to talk to you a little bit about wind light, because wind light can help to set your mood. Actually, I think it's called EEPs now, but it's a good idea to explore these, and you can find some on Marketplace, or you can make your own. You need to find one that kind of sets your mood. Are you trying to convey a dark, scary night or a bright, joyous day? And, you know, maybe you want your story to be set in the past, and so you want it to have kind of a sepia tone, or maybe it's a ghostly setting and you need fog. You know, play with all of that. Put all of that into your scene before you go into post-production, before you start building everything out, because it'll make things a lot easier. So I'm going to show you an example of an EP that we used as a creative choice. And with this particular crime scene, we were really concerned about the sensitive nature of the subject, as it involved a child who was murdered. And while some of those details had to be shown, we really didn't want to you know, make it sensationalized. We wanted to be very respectful. So this is what we did.
On November the 18th, 2001, the Flores family, accompanied by their 3 children, including 5-year-old Alejandra Flores, entered a Walmart store in El Paso, Texas. Video surveillance from the store showed Alejandra playing in the store aisles with her brother and sister, and later wandering away from her family. Surveillance also showed a single male subject enter the store at around 4:30 p.m., then exiting the store alone at around 5:07 p.m. Upon exiting, another security camera showed the male subject being confronted by a Walmart security guard for leaving his van running in the parking lot. At 5:13 p.m., the same male subject re-entered the store and exited at 5:15 p.m. with Alejandra. Based on the video surveillance, the male subject was 5 feet 5 inches tall, had dark eyes, was wearing a light-colored hat, a dark shirt, dark shorts, weighed approximately 182 pounds, and drove a van. Later that evening, at around 9 o'clock p.m., security video from a nearby 7-Eleven store showed the male subject entering the store and purchasing two 32-ounce cans of beer. At approximately 7:10 a.m. the next day on November 19, 2001, Alejandra's nude, partially burned body was discovered at the east alley of 1220 North Oregon, 16 miles from the Walmart. A partially burned plastic bag covered her head. The medical examiner testified that Alejandra had two separate bruises on her skull that indicated two separate blows on opposite sides of her head. He concluded that Alejandra died from asphyxia due to manual strangulation and that she was already dead when she was burned. He later testified that an extreme amount of force was applied to Alejandra when she was strangled due to the amount of hemorrhaging found on her body. He found no evidence of sexual assault, but did not rule out the possibility that she was touched. Physical evidence and latent prints were collected at the crime scene and from the victim's person. The medical examiner also found pieces of orange wedges in Alejandra's stomach, concluding that she more than likely ate the oranges within 3 hours of her death. Video surveillance at a nearby Sam's Club from November 18, 2001 revealed the male subject, wearing clothes very similar to those worn by the male subject, had purchased oranges while shopping with his father. A gasoline container was discovered in the male subject's van. DNA extracted from bloodstains found in the van were consistent with Alejandra's DNA. The male subject's palm print also matched a latent palm print found on the plastic bag covering Alejandra's head when her body was discovered.
All right. Well, welcome back. Yeah, those are kind of hard to watch, but they do. But they are very, very effective learning tool, and they were not hard. I mean, they were not easy to make either, really. Anyway, you know, one of the things that we really considered in all of those is just because those are real victims. You know, these things really happened, and as a matter of fact, with this one, the person who committed that crime was executed a few months ago. So there's some pretty serious topics. Anyway, wanted to talk a little bit about kind of the video production aspect of this. For equipment, we use gaming PCs and 4K monitors, and we run Firestorm. And one of the things that's really important to get that smooth movement that you're seeing is to keep your frames per second at least 60. I would say from 30 to 30 and above, and to try to keep them consistent. So, you know, making sure that you have a really good computer, maybe being in a skybox as opposed to down on the ground where there's a lot of extra prims, making sure that you keep your draw distance down to only what you need. So if you're doing a close-up, you don't need to have that draw distance, you know, at 300. If you do have to have it at 300 because you're, you know, showing a wide angle and you're showing a lot of the environment, make sure that you have your LOD up. So that you don't have, if you're moving your camera, you don't have your prims breaking and things like that. And so you got to think about those things. I gave a list of the screen capture software that we use, as well as the kind of controllers that we use. If you look to my left, you will see a box that says UTEP on it. That has a note card with that information in it. So if you would like that, and it has links in it as well, so that you can find that software. I will say Adrian loves using OBS Studio because he does a lot of streaming. I prefer Windows Gaming Bar. It's already on your system, really easy to use. And as far as QuickTime for Mac, the screen capture software is not available in QuickTime for PC. It's only available in Mac, but those are all free softwares that you can use for screen capture. So I wanted to talk. Okay, so these are a couple of other pieces of information. You can use Control Command Alt F1, and that will remove your user interface. You won't be able to see names of people and all of that stuff. And that's actually really important, especially if you're, say, filming in a crowd, because the terms of service state that you're not allowed to show people's avatar names without their permission. So if you're filming in a crowded area and you don't have permission to be using all of those avatars, you want to make sure that their names are not going to show. It's specifically the name, the avatar can actually be shown. And those are some camera movements. So if you don't have a joystick or a 3D mouse, you can actually slow down your zoom with camera lag and zoom speed. And that's how you get to it within Firestorm. Let's see, I'm not sure I have enough time to show you, but let's see, I think I can show you a very small clip that shows how that looks as compared to using the joystick. So the crime scene pieces all use the joystick. And then this one is just used with the camera lag and zoom speed, just things that you can find in Second Life and you can do with your mouse. So please let me know when you're done. I hope that clip's not too long.
We explored specifically narratives that involved food and how food was connected to memory and history. With the technology, we tried to tell that story and incorporate the food also. So one of the questions that came up was how would we engage the senses as far as the food came?
Digital aspects, digital projects have been involved in the humanities for a long time. It's just recognition is starting to emerge. And so it was really refreshing when I could audit Dr. Barca's class because she's coming to literature in a whole new way, not only in how she studies food and how she approaches narratives and groups of people, but now by incorporating the digital aspect, she is encouraging a whole new way of looking at these kinds of ways of living, ways of communicating, ways in which people interact, all of these forms of literary communication, personal communication.
Okay, so as you can see, you're able to achieve kind of that smooth movement with the mouse. I kind of like that method because I think for what the students were describing in that piece, it works really well because you can also see that we're using things like depth of field, which you can play with also in the Second Life viewer under your graphic settings. Okay, so I've got to go through this really quickly. So you also need to coordinate your avatars. A tip that I have for you all is to stream what the camera person is seeing through Discord or Teams or something like that, because that allows all the actors to be able to see exactly what the camera person is seeing. And it really helps. And also use voice to tell people what to do and when. That's also very helpful. You're not going to use any kind, I wouldn't recommend using any of the audio features in Second Life at all when you're doing Machinima. You're going to record those later. Another tip I have is oh, by the way, these are our students. So these were some of our puppeteers. They are wonderful, wonderful students, and I'm very proud to work with them. But anyway, another thing that I do is to have the actors choose the animations to convey the emotions that they feel like the character should have. I will take them over to Abra Animations, which is an animation store here in Second Life, and then they just hop on the animation pads and pick the animations they want, and then I give them the lindens and they buy it so that they have them. And then they can just put that on the screen and do the action whenever they need to. Abra Animations, that's a really fun store. They have a lot of role play animations. Yes, thank you. Thank you for correcting my spelling there. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the voiceover and dialogue. You really do want to record that separately in a quiet room with a good mic. And it can be recorded before filming. If you do that, it's nice because you can piece that together and then use that for timing as you're filming. Or you can do it afterwards. It depends on what you're doing. If you are recording somebody who's, say in another, across the world or in another city, you can use something like Zencaster, which will record people's audio streaming in the most pure way that you can get a stream. And then also you can consider using AI. But the key is to not take the first one that you get from using a text-to-speech AI. Make sure that you get the emotion that you want. Record small chunks. Don't record long sentences or paragraphs. Just record small chunks of dialogue and get the emotion that you want, and then piece those together. Okay, and all of that is going to come together into the post-production. You're going to put it into editing software. You're going to import everything, including the graphics that you might have created, and then use your storyboard to build or guild, apparently, your video. You want to align it with the audio, consider your transitions and effects, and add your text and graphics. And you can do all of that. We use Premiere Pro. There are other ones out there that are free. I believe, oh dear, DaVinci Resolve is free, and it's a very, very good software. You can change, color and lighting and different things in the software as well, and animate things that maybe you couldn't have otherwise within Second Life. So that's the process. And this is the advantage of using Machinima. It's cost effective. It could be flexible and efficient. For us, we felt like it was the most effective tool for portraying real life incidents, being sensitive to the people who were involved, and it also aligns with innovation, with trying new things and getting people familiar with technologies, learning new technology. Well, I'll be happy to share my slides if that would help. And so do you all have any questions or any ideas of how you might want to use Machinima? She is not. Dr. Abarca is always trying to innovate, and right now she's using AI. She's using AI, and she's using doing podcasting. she comes up with something new all the time and just moves on to that. So unfortunately, no, she's not. The museum that the students made is still here. Any more questions? Yes, I'll be glad to.
I can help you with that if you'll get them to me, Madeline.
Sure.
We can just put out a box here that people want. If that's okay with you, they can just grab a box. Okay.
Yes, I'll be glad to do that.
We do have more time for questions at our happy hour.
All right.
And oh my gosh, this is fabulous.
The depth of field. I can. Yes, I can add. I can put that in there as well. It's actually pretty simple. As far as doing the rack focus, where one thing is in focus and another thing isn't, and then it shifts. That just took a little bit of practice. All of the camera actions take practice. It takes practice. I don't know what else to say about that. Yeah. All of this takes practice. Yeah.
Perfect practice.
Yeah. And you don't always get it right the second time, and that's why editing is a lovely thing.
We will move over to the deck and have some more questions. So,
all right.
Madeline, you've given us a lot to think about Machinima and virtual worlds, how they can help us with innovative and critical education. This was just a fabulous presentation. It is clear that your team has used your skills to make your courses better, and you've used great pedagogy to advance their understanding. We would like to thank our audience for attending today. And just a reminder, here you go, Max. You will be able to find the recording of today's presentation on the VWEC YouTube channel, and the link is in the chat. We will be having our next expert event on Friday, July 12th, with a panel of our amazing instructors who will share lessons from the Student Life SL Student Challenge. To see all of our VWEC events, please check out the Plaza calendar that's also linked in the chat. And I've just lost what all I put in there for you, so let me make sure. Oh yeah, that I got to the end of that. We also have a ton of social media, and please join us on our social media channels. And you will also notice that we have a kiosk here on the deck that's pretty new. As educators, we have been asking Linden Labs for mobile for years, and Second Life Mobile is moving forward quickly. VWEC and a few other groups were given the kiosk to share with the mobile beta viewers. So please look it over as you have time and grab a note card with more information at the bottom. They would love your feedback to get it ready for prime time. And so if everyone could stand up, please join us over at our refreshments, and we will continue with questions. And feel free to use voice for your questions as well. Voice or text, and we will watch for that. Thank you again, Madeline. This has just been fabulous.
Thank you all.